Happy New Year, y'all. It is 2025, if you can believe that. And we are kicking off the new year, Jason and with some pretty awesome sounding colds. I'm going to tell you, I was just telling Jason before we got on the air that I cannot breathe out of my nose at all. So I probably sound better. Maybe I have like a more professional radio voice when I'm muffled like this. But thank you for fighting through this. We're going to fight through it, but we got a good show and we're excited about it. This is episode 348. I hope that y'all had a very Merry Christmas, a blessed New Year. We have a lot to be thankful for, and Jason and I, we always count our blessings all the time. But one of the blessings that we have is this show and y'all watching every week. So thank y'all. Thank you for taking the time to do that. And Jason, what are we going to be talking about today?
So, guys, well, hold on. Before I get to that, I want to say Happy New Year. Yeah, we made it through 2024. So, thank you to all of our listeners and viewers out there, and all the customers at Outdoor Legacy. Great, successful year, and it's because of y'all. So, thank you very much for that. Hans, I'm excited about 2025. We've got a lot ahead of us, a lot going on in the thermal and night vision industry. We're going to be doing a show here in the next week or two. I think going to be talking about what we call the state of the industry, where we just kind of talk about what is going on in the market. And that kind of is going to launch us into our SHOT Show discussions, because SHOT Show is going to be coming up here in a few weeks, very soon. This show is, I think, a pretty good tee up for talking about the industry. This show is going to be called, I don't know what Hans is going to title it, but it's basically going to be like thermal and night vision trends for 2025.
Sounds good to me. I like it.
There's, whatever you want to call it, Hans. But there's a couple things in here, and there's actually we've got 4 trends we're going to talk about. There's another one that I'm going to add to this list that Hans doesn't even know about. We're going to go impromptu. He's that's going to really throw him off.
I love that.
But it's going to be good. But before we do this, guys, real quick, I just want to say this. So, a lot of people are a little bit confused. They know Hans and I do this podcast. We do reviews. We talk about, the thermal and night vision industry. We review scopes, do all kinds of things. And they don't say, well, y'all just do this for fun. Because a lot of people on YouTube do. It's a hobby, and they create content and make videos, and it's awesome, and it helps all of us. But Hans and I actually do this for a living. No, we're not getting paid by you watching this. We don't make one penny from that, but we do get paid if you choose to purchase your optic from us. So if you're looking for a night vision or a thermal scope and you would like to purchase from us, you would like to support this show, you would like to help feed our children, and not just ours. We've got another salesman, Garrett. We've got 3 ladies in the office. We've got a whole warehouse crew. So we've got a lot of people that we need to sell a lot of scopes. So need to have another good 2025 this year. So again, if you're looking for a night vision or thermal scope and would like to purchase it from us, give us a call, 877-350-1818. We are happy to help you figure out exactly what scope you need. Then the ladies can take your order over the phone if you prefer to do it that way. A lot of people do. I think a lot of people like just getting it done over the phone. They don't have to worry if they're adding in the right accessories or making sure they're getting the right scope, that the ladies can get that done for them. And so I think they like just doing it over the phone because it's kind of quick and easy, and let somebody else put in all those credit card details for you. So you can always, again, call us. You can go to the website, outdoorlegacy.com, and check out all the scopes there. And if you know what you want, you're ready to order, you can do it right there on the website. But we would love to have your business. Now, Hans, I'm going to start this off with a trend that we've talked about before, and it's not here on this list, but I'd forgotten to put it on there earlier. And it is the trend.
Did you remember the one that you forgot?
This is it. Yeah, so
awesome.
This is it.
Okay,
so
good
this
job.
was it. So this is an important one. And by the way, when I thought of this, guys, it was at like 2:30 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. So this is a big trend, and I think we could even substitute some others on here for this, how big it is. And it is the trend of digital night vision becoming less popular, and
Mm-hmm.
they're becoming less options
Mm-hmm.
on the market with digital night vision compared to what there has been over the last decade.
Yeah.
And so I just want to talk about this a little bit. I mean, Sightmark, which is one of the big brands, they are, they've had more digital night vision optics, more models and options than anybody else out there. And we've just seen they've been condensing that
Yeah.
line, and it's been getting smaller and smaller and smaller,
We
and they're
we
kind
did
of
a whole
closing some
show
things out.
about
Yeah.
is night vision going away? An entire show about
We
yeah, it's
we
exactly
did,
right.
and what we didn't know then is kind of what we're seeing now. And we've got another manufacturer that was telling us. I think they're going to be talking about this some closer to SHOT Show, but they've got some digital night vision optics, and I think a couple of those models are going away. And so what
Mhm.
we're seeing is we've gone from, I don't know how many. I'm gonna have to go count, but I would say two, four, five, six, seven, eight, maybe 8 to 10 optics. I think by uh, you know mid-year or before, we'll probably be down somewhere in that maybe 3 or 4 optics at most. And
Mhm.
so hey, another one, Pulsar. Pulsar discontinued their Digex C50 and said they are exiting the digital night vision market. And that is a first for them. And they
Mhm.
have, and since I've been doing this, I think this is going on 12 years this year. Pulsar has always been strong in the digital night vision world, had
Yeah.
some of the best, if not
Yeah.
the best, digital night vision optics. And now they've exited the market. So it is a trend.
Mhm.
And Hans and I did talk about this on a show, and I don't think we saw this coming quite as quickly. And I want to be clear, it's not going away. But I do think it's consolidating. And I want to just real briefly talk about this, and then we'll move on to these other trends. But I think that one of the reasons why is because of the cost of thermals. Thermals
Mhm.
are getting less and less and less expensive, and the digital night vision technology is not really getting less expensive to make. It kind of had already hit a bottom, had been less expensive, had been low. So you're getting this downward pressure from thermals. Now we've got these 256 resolution thermals that are the same price as a lot of the digital night vision scopes, even cheaper than some of the digital night vision scopes. And again, I think we've talked about this before on the show, and we'll talk about it some more. I mean, there's pros and cons to digital night vision versus thermal. Sometimes the digital night vision scopes will do more than the thermal optics will, and vice versa.
Mhm.
But we're just seeing this pressure, and one of the manufacturers told me, they said, we know where we need to be on the pricing, and we just can't make it profitably and sell it at that price. So we're just going to quit,
Yeah.
and we're going to scale this way back anyway, and probably eventually quit. So I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I think that there is I don't know how to explain this maybe, but like, even as consumers, we like less expensive. Oh, it's getting cheaper. It's getting cheaper. It's getting cheaper. But there comes a point that we can get too much of what we want, and it gets so cheap that it's not profitable to make anymore, and it just goes away. And that's not good. So I would say
Yeah.
there is a con to this. I think there's going to be less good quality options for guys who are wanting to get into night hunting. They want to do it for say five, six, $700 or under, and they want to do some shooting over 100, 150 yards. That's where digital night vision has been very strong, and I think those options are pretty quickly going away or going to be at least greatly condensed. So that's a
Yeah.
trend right now
Yeah.
that, again, we didn't really see coming this quickly, Hans.
You're right, and I'm going to give myself some kudos because this past week I shot a nice buck at my house with with our favorite night vision scope. I didn't shoot it at night; I shot it in daytime mode, but the AGM Spectrum. And so
You do have to give that
I'm gonna.
disclaimer in East Texas,
I
you know.
know you do. I had to pat myself on the back a little bit there, but you're exactly right on that. The trend. Let's talk about another trend. And Jason, when we talk about what's coming, what we're seeing, what we're noticing, it gets
Hmm.
people a little bit nervous, doesn't it, about making a purchase right now when we talk about
Sure.
trends, because a lot of the trends we're going to talk about are really cool things. Not digital night vision going away, but other features and other technology. And it's exciting. And you're like, man, should I wait? Should I wait to see what plays out for the year? And there's always options to do that. And we can get into, we've talked about the buying process, and a lot of what our show is about is the buying process. But when we talk about trends, we see these, and that doesn't mean that next month all this stuff, is going to be,
Right.
a brand new 1280 scope is going to be $2,000 or anything like that. We're not saying that, but another trend that we're talking about, and I want to highlight here, is the move where you're seeing more accessibility and more thermal scope companies adding beyond 640 resolution optics. So right now, Infrared Outdoor they came out with a 1280 scope a few years ago. They've got a 1024 scope right now. We've got Pulsar with a 1024 thermal scope. They've got some handhelds too with 1024 and 1280. And we're seeing this trend, and I think you'll see a lot of the other thermal manufacturers follow up on that in the near future, where there will be some more beyond 640 resolution optics. The positive that we've seen with that, obviously, great picture image, more pixels, better image, more ID range, a little bit further effective shooting range, all of that. Yes, optically, it looks fantastic. The benefit, though, in what's happening, what we're seeing, the pro, is that the prices are on that technology, that higher sensor pixel count technology, is coming down quite a bit. When Infrared Outdoor came out with their RS75, it was $18,000, and people are like, "Holy cow!" But I mean, that was the bar that was set at the time. Nobody else had one on the market. They were really in the United States market. They were the first ones to do it. But you can see now they followed that up with their Bolt TX60C, which is right now at $69.99, right at $7,000. Fantastic scope, one of the most popular scopes, especially for predator hunters of the year. Pulsar came out with their XL50, a 1024 with a built-in laser rangefinder, and that price has fluctuated from $8,000 down to $7,000. So you can see the trend of higher resolution, prices coming down. Now, what that's doing, Jason, what we've noticed is that's pushing the 640 resolution prices down. That's pushing the 384 resolution prices down. Now you can get a 256 resolution for $800, and it's a dang good scope for the right person. But yes, there is this, when you adding the higher end optics, I do think it's going to play a part in the market when it comes to this, the 640 or the 384. I would say the only con is that sometimes people's expectation of 1024 and 1280 might be, I don't want to say people have too high of an expectation, because it is fantastic. But a lot of times if somebody has a 640 resolution scope, and they're like, "Oh man, this is really great. I can ID a long way." Well, they think, well, if I go to a 1280 scope, I'm going to have double the ID range. Like if I can ID a coyote at 700 yards with my scope, that means I'll be able to ID a coyote at, my background line, if you are watching on YouTube, just burned out. So anyway, that's awesome. So they say if I can ID with my 640 scope at 700 yards, that means with a 1280, I can ID a coyote at 1,400 yards. No, it definitely does not work that way. You're going to have a little bit further ID range. It is going to be a cleaner, sharper image, but you have to have a managed expectation as far as what that extra resolution is going to do for you. If you need it, if it's worth it, if it's worth the money. And for some people out there, it is definitely worth the money. There's some people out there that, that maybe aren't hunting all the time, maybe just a few times a year, that maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's not, Jason, as you and I have talked about it, that jump from 384 resolution to 640, it is, man. It is like, I don't want to say night and day, because that's a little extreme, but it's dramatic. I mean, pretty much double the ID range from a 384 to a 640. That jump from 640 to 1024 or 1280, it is not a double jump in picture quality like you would see with between a 256 and a 384 or a 384 and 640. And so that's the only, I'd say downside, but the positive is better picture quality and much less pricing, or a lot more affordable pricing, I would say, than what we've seen in the years past with this higher resolution stuff.
And I agree with all that. I tell you, it's a great trend. We're excited about it. And it's crazy to me that we're sitting here talking about $7,000 1024
Yeah.
resolution scopes. I mean, I know 7,000 is still a big number, but the first one of these that hit a couple years ago was 16, 18,000. We went from that
Oh,
to 7,000. I mean, it
and I
just
talk to
so
guys all the
quick.
I got talk to guys all the time that are sorry, I messed with this line. I talk to like guys all the time that it's not, like, oh man, I don't really have a budget, but I don't want to spend that much. It's not that you can't spend that much, it's that you don't want to. So you really got to talk about, again, is that jump in price and in quality worth it for what you're
Hmm.
trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish? So
Yep,
the answer to that is yes and no in some
that's right.
cases.
All right, let's move to the next trend. We're going to try to get through these quickly. This is a big one here, and this is probably, looking at this, it's probably one of the biggest on this list, and it is the ballistic
Mhm.
calculators. We are
Mhm.
seeing this in almost every scope now that has a laser rangefinder or has an add-on laser rangefinder. Just about all of the newer optics, this is an option in there. Is the ballistic calculators, and Pulsar, they do theirs through an app, and you upload the profile into your scope. Some of the other brands, they're built into the scope. You enter the details there on your scope through the button. So there's different ways of doing it, but essentially, they all do the same thing. They're giving you a holdover for taking those shots. Whatever that known distance is that you're ranging, and it's telling you what your holdover is, putting a hash mark or something on your reticle. And so I think the pros to this are obvious. I think it's good for long range shooters, which again, Hans and I to this day have a very hard time talking about night hunting and talking about long range at the same time because we
Mhm.
just don't see these optics as again, long range in the way that a lot of people talk about it. I mean, long range to us is shooting anything over a couple hundred yards,
Yeah.
and that's us. I know there's a lot of guys that are really stretching the limits of what these scopes will do, and as these scopes get better, you know, again, higher resolutions, higher magnifications. There are some true long range optics on the market, and these ballistic calculators are really helping a lot of people. Something that a lot of times we don't talk about much, but somebody will remind us in the comments, or I'll talk to somebody on the phone. And a lot of guys using the ballistic calculators are actually guys that may be shooting close range. Maybe they're using a crossbow or an air rifle or subsonic ammo. And so that it's not that they're trying to shoot 400 yards, they're trying to shoot 100 yards, or 50 yards,
Mhm.
but they've got a significant drop in whatever it is that they're shooting. And so that's really a great option for those guys as well, rather than trying to figure out what their holdovers are and
Mhm.
all that. So that's cool. But the cons, there are some cons with this trend. And I don't know. I'm going to try to be nice, and I'm going to joke about this a little bit. I don't want to insult anybody, but they say that this iPhone right here that I'm holding up has got way more computing power than the computer that
Oh,
NASA
sure.
used to send man to the moon. But I'm not an astronaut just because I own that phone. And my truck, I think it's got like, I don't know, 120 on the speedometer, but that doesn't make me Dale Earnhardt. So
Mm.
what we've got
I don't think
is
that needle's ever gone over 60 on that
no,
truck
it
of
does
yours.
not. It does not. I do not drive fast. But the point that I'm making, and I am joking, I'm tongue in cheek here, but it's a trend. This is a trend within this ballistic calculator. And I know that, and we try to tiptoe around this, but there's a lot of guys that are not long range shooters. And I want to be clear. Hans and I are going to go on the record right here. We are not long range shooters. We don't use the ballistic calculators. We use Kentucky windage. So we're okay. Yeah, he's
I,
200 yards. This is my
I know.
holdover. He's
I,
that.
s-
Go
I
ahead.
shot that deer at 100 yards, and I remember telling you, I'm like, man, I just didn't want to shoot that deer at 100 yards. And you're like, man, you take longer shots than that on hogs and coyotes. And I'm like, yeah, but man, I don't want to make a 100-yard shot. That's how spoiled you and I are when it comes to
I
shooting
know
distance.
we
Yeah.
are. We shoot close range generally. So
Hmm.
again, I want to say this. I'm not saying this is this lofty. Hans and I are sitting on our throne as the gatekeepers of long range shooting. Not at all.
Not at
We're
all.
not. But here's what I am saying. We're talking to a lot of guys who have no business long range shooting because they're probably just about like us.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get all this data into their calculator. They don't understand it. We don't understand it all. They don't know their ballistics. And then that turns into a situation of they're trying to do something that they don't have the skill to do. And my
Hmm.
opinion is that's something that needs to be learned on a range in the daytime, not
Hmm.
on an animal at night when you're out there just slinging lead. There's a lot of dangers in night hunting and don't know where in the world that bullet's going and there's a lot of concern there. And there's just a lot of confusion. I've had guys, and listen, if I want to be clear, there's probably some guys right now that are listening to this and say he's talking about me. He's being a jerk. There's several of you that I've tried to help and admitted like, hey, you're asking a legit question. I don't know the answer to it. I'm going to
Right.
help you try to get the answer. Let's figure it out. But there's also a lot of guys that are like, all right, I got my box of ammo here. What are all the numbers I need to enter? I'm like, you don't know any more about this than I do. You need to be getting some professional help. And so, again, I know you guys that are out there listening that are long range shooters that do understand all the ballistics and do understand, why it matters what your scope height is and what your barrel length is, and
Hmm.
knowing what that bullet really is chronographed coming out of your barrel. You understand how important all this is and how big of a deal it is. And it is a skill and it's a learned skill. And I think a lot of people could learn it. I think if Hans and I were interested and wanted to, and we had a good teacher, we could do it as well. So I just want to make the point that I do see this as a trend with the ballistic calculators. I think it's good for a lot of people, but it does concern me sometimes that I think a lot of people are buying a scope and because it has that feature, think, man, I'm going to go out and, shoot coyotes at 700 yards. Sometimes, I mean, I have guys talking to me about wanting to shoot 200 to 300 yards past what I know their scope could
Hmm.
positively identify at, and that
Yeah.
scares me to death. When I would say that the safe positive ID range on particular scope is 300 350 yards, and he's like, yeah, I want to shoot at 700 yards, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like, what
Yeah.
are you going to be shooting? So anyway, that's a trend. Again, I think it's a pro, but there's also some cons and just some things we need to be aware of. So Hans, what do you got?
Yeah. We're going to go through this one pretty quick. So you're right about learning to long range shoot. I have as much interest in learning how to play the harmonica as I do like learning bullet
Harmonica.
trajectories. No offense to long range shooters, love y'all, but man, it's just not for me. Anyway, so talk about a trend, Jason, that we could have done this show 5 years ago, and we could have
Mm-hmm.
said that this trend, and then it almost completely disappeared, and now it's
Mm-hmm.
making a comeback. And that is recoil activated video. Got so many phone calls of guys now. They're like, "Man, has it got that recoil activated recording?" And basically, what that is, to explain, you can a lot of this now you can toggle on and off in your scope. So you can turn on recoil activated video, and what that will do is when you take a shot, that well, back up here. So this video is, I guess it's always video. It's videoing on a loop, but when it feels a recoil, when the scope feels a recoil, it's clipping that part of the video, almost like the dash cams, uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jason, that are recording on a loop. That's what the recoil activated video is doing. And when it feels a recoil or feels a shot, it'll clip that, a certain amount of time before the shot and a certain
Mm-hmm.
amount of time after the shot is basically
I'm
what it's
gonna
doing.
just be honest. That's a great explanation. And when you started this, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to hear him try to know. But you did a good
I know
job.
it's tough. It is tough. Yeah, it's talking about a trend that I don't use. So the reason why this is an attractive feature for people is because so many people out there forget to push the record button, and it happens a lot, and it always happens when you've got that 350-pound hog in front of you, or you got 6 coyotes that ran in and you dropped all 6, and you go back to watch the video and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to push record and I just dropped 6 coyotes, on one stand by myself. So that's when it's going to fail you, but if you are, like so many out there, and you forget to push record, the recoil activated is an attractive feature, and there are more options now than there has been in many, many years of that trend kind of making a comeback. The con to that is it is very unreliable, and so much so that we try to downplay it somewhat on the phone, like, hey, don't depend on this thing 100%. This should just be a backup plan. I mean, because ultimately what we're finding and what we're still seeing, and it was the same problem as it was in previous years, is
It was.
it doesn't start record, or it doesn't clip where it's supposed to clip, or it only clips a second before the shot instead of 15 seconds, or it cuts off too early. It's so it's very unreliable from what we've seen, that we're just telling people, hey, try to just get into the habit of pushing the record button, because you don't want to depend on that 100%. If you take it to the range and it's turned on and you're sighting in a rifle, it's going to clip those videos and save them. If you set your rifle down or bang it a little bit hard, it'll think it's recoil. It'll start, clipping that video. Mm-hmm. So there's some problems with it. I mean, I'm not totally against recoil activated video. You and I have been burned on it so many times. The people that have gotten these scopes call in and are like, oh man, this thing didn't work right, or it didn't record the video. Sometimes they'll say, I took one shot on a coyote and it saved the recording perfectly. The next night I did it and it didn't do it right, or it screwed it up. Anyway, that is a trend that's coming back. It's a positive and it's a negative. Use with caution. Don't trust it. Again, try to just force. That should be like, recoil activated video should be the training wheels of, getting your scope brand new, getting used to pushing the record button. But that should be a temporary thing. You should switch over. Yes, Jason and I are used to pushing the record button. I don't take a shot unless I know it's recording, because it's just a habit. But I know once you get your scope from the beginning, it's kind of hard to remember. But those are training wheels, but get used to pressing the button yourself, and it'll be much better for you. I promise you that.
Yeah. One thing I want to comment on that is if you are in charge of pressing the button and you forget to press the button, you will say, "Dadgummit, I didn't do that." And you'll be mad at yourself for about 30 seconds and you'll get over it. But what I've found is that if you're relying on the scope to do it and it doesn't do it, you don't get over it in 30 seconds. You're furious and you're mad, and you want a new scope, or you want the manufacturer to fix it. You know what I'm getting at? So it's like, I get it. It's a feature and it's being advertised that it should work. And so understandably, as a consumer, you're purchasing this saying, I want this feature. I expect it to work. Yeah. What we're trying to do is say, buy it. It's a cool feature if it works. Don't buy it planning that it's always going to work. And so the alternative,
and don't buy that scope because it's got that feature, just because it's got that feature.
That's no way. And the alternative is I understand. So, and we've been down this with another manufacturer before, where it was like everybody was complaining. It works sometimes. Well, and some guys, and there's guys listening to this, go, mine works every single time. Well, you are lucky. Okay, you've gotten lucky. That's not the rule across all. Trust us, we get the phone calls, we know. But what I would say to you is the alternative is that the manufacturer will just take it completely out. We've seen this happen before, where it's like, okay, you can either have it and it'll work most of the time, or we'll just get rid of it if that's what you want. So it's kind of like your parents, it's like, all right, fine. You pushed me to this point. We're just not going to do it anymore. So I agree with Hans. It's great when you're first learning because you're excited, the adrenaline's pumping. But once you get out there and you've hunted enough, you've just got to make those. Pressing the record button has to become one of those things of, I have to take the safety off. I have to
Yeah.
put the crosshairs on the
Yeah.
animal. I have to press the record. It's just part of your
Right.
routine, and you'll get it. But I do understand that you see that hog or that coyote, and you get excited and you forget. I understand that. All right, next one and last trend is a cool one. This is one that Hans and I have been I said advocating for. And we're really happy about it. And it is 18650 batteries. We're seeing more optics than ever taking fully removable, rechargeable 18650 batteries. If you're not familiar with that battery, I meant to grab some, bring them up here, but they're basically I don't know, 3-inch long battery, big around as your I don't know, finger, and they're generic. So you can buy these anywhere online. You're probably not going to find them in Walmart or somewhere in just local store. You might, but probably not. But you can buy them online. Again, there's lots of different brands, and so it's cool. It's a cheap battery. They're anywhere from 12 to $30 a piece, and it's great. You're not tied to a proprietary battery from a manufacturer, and everybody likes that. And they're affordable, not like your $150, $200 a piece. So it's great, and we have been probably some of the biggest advocates in this industry for this. And I know you're ready. There's going to be a but. There is a but. We're seeing a con the more widespread this becomes. And there's a couple issues. One, some of these 18650s are flat tops. Okay. They don't have the little button. The others are button top. Okay. So we've got two different kinds. They're not interchangeable. And so a guy will say, man, I'm buying this scope. It's an 18650 battery. He's all pumped. He's like, man, I got 14 flashlights to take these. I got these batteries everywhere. And I say, oh, okay, this, just so you know, these are flat tops. What? I don't own any of those. All mine are button top. Oops, there's a problem. So that we're seeing that, just the compatibility there, which again, not the end of the world. It's still, you get, very affordable batteries. But here's where a problem is coming. We've been actually dealing with this with a couple customers leading up right to the recording of this show. And that is because these are generic, these batteries, I don't understand exactly why. I just, maybe there's going to be somebody that's a battery expert that's going to come in the comments and explain this. But we're seeing different lengths and different diameters even of these batteries across battery manufacturers, not necessarily scope manufacturers. So I've got guys that are calling, and this is becoming more and more common as more optics are taking these batteries, and they're saying, okay, great, the batteries that came with it work perfect, the ones the manufacturer sent, but I just went out and I bought more batteries, and they may be a name brand, they may be a no-name Chinese brand, they may be whatever, but they don't work. They're too long, or they're too short, or they're too big around. And I've got a guy that, like I said, we've been dealing with this week, and he told me 3 different brands of batteries, including a good name brand. And he said that they're about 3/16 longer than the batteries that the manufacturer sent, and he cannot get it in the scope. It will not fit because they're too long. And so he's continued to buy more batteries, and he can't find any that are that short. And he's like, well, I don't know what to do short of going back to the manufacturer and buying those batteries. And they're not even really selling them because they're not trying to be in the battery business. And so it is an issue sometimes that we're seeing. And I had a guy that actually sent me a picture, and I wish I could find this email. It was a while back, and it was really telling. He had like 8 or 10 different brands of 18650 button top batteries lined up. Sometimes same brand, just a different model of battery, and there were different links. That was just like do, 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 do. I mean, and you don't think, well, what's a little bit matter? It can be enough that you can't get the thread started on the cap, or you can't, if it's one of those, you got to, put the spring in and press it down. You can't get it in. He also showed me from a top view and used his little calipers there that the difference in the diameter, not circumference, diameter was different. And he had a couple batteries that would not even fit down in the tube of his scope, but they would fit in a flashlight. So I'm just making this point to say Hans and I love the 18650s. I mean, again, we have been all about it and we still are. But I do think there's a negative of it sometimes can be hard to find, just easily go out. I can buy any brand of these, and sometimes that you might have trouble where they just don't fit correctly. So it gets frustrating, and we don't have the answers either because, for instance, this guy had the battery and this brand had worked before, but he bought another identical and this time it didn't work. So it's like, how do you explain that? I can't, and I don't know. So anyway, but that's a trend. The 18650 trend though overall is really good. We're really happy with it. This is something, a little bit of growing pains we're fighting through, but we're doing some battery testing and stuff, and we're trying to see what we can figure out what works best in most of these optics. And we've right now we're really happy with Nightcore, and we've become a dealer for them, and we're selling those on our website. But we've been testing these to figure out what works and what doesn't, and even that can still be a little confusing. But Hans, so that's 5 trends for 2025.
Yeah.
I want to say this, and I mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing what we call, again, state of the industry, talking about what's going on. And I think these trends, some of these may get mentioned again in that. It is going to be a little different focus on that show. But there's a lot of good stuff going on in this market right now.
There is. There really is. And, like you said, you need to check back with us because we're going to continue to talk about this subject. This is something that yes, we do have a connection to a lot of the major manufacturers. We are testing new stuff. We demo new stuff. We're giving you information based on not what we hear directly from them, but what we see and when actually these scopes come to market. So continue to check back, continue to watch the Late Night Vision show. If you are looking to purchase a brand new night vision or thermal optic from Outdoor Legacy, we would love your business. 877-350-1818, outdoorlegacy.com. You can jump on the website. You can find all the scopes there. You can call us and say, hey, I've got my eye on this one, and we can talk you through it and help you narrow down the choices. If you want to find more of the Late Night Vision Show podcast, obviously YouTube is a great place to do that. You can go to the latenightvision.show.com. I was thinking of a conversation I had earlier with the guys. Like, I don't know what y'all do, but every time I type in something on Google, the Late Night Vision Show comes up. And I was like, man, I don't know what we're doing either, but I'm thankful for that. So
That's right.
the latenightvision.show.com. If you want to find more about Outdoor Legacy, again, I give you the website. You can also find Outdoor Legacy on Facebook and on Instagram and on YouTube. You can find me at the same at Hans ETX on YouTube, Instagram, and on YouTube. And we've got a lot of shows, man, lined up and trying to get a lot of interview shows done and wrapped up for the new year. But thank y'all for the ride.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Again, we are wishing everyone a very, very happy 2025. Look forward to another great year at Outdoor Legacy and right here on the Late Night Vision Show. Hope to see y'all again here next week. Y'all stay safe.